It's boring.
Mortal Shell developers Cold Symmetry have gone all in with their Dark Souls-inspired fantasy RPG, wearing their influence proudly on their sleeve. Mysterious and eerie environments are littered with creatures that want nothing more than to tear you apart. Combat demands you pay attention, using learned skills and found items efficiently, and that general sense of, what the hell am I doing, until it all clicks a few hours in, is present in spades. You'd be totally forgiven if you thought you were looking at Dark Souls upon first glance, but look a little closer and you'll find unique twists to the formula well worth exploring. Cast as a strange, seemingly nude mute, you're thrust into a dark realm and tasked by a questionable prisoner to retrieve sacred glands from temples of the devout. The purposefully vague story presented here is not only told through the few lonely NPCs scattered around the world, but also the scriptures to be found and the detailed environments oozing with atmosphere. The backstories of the 4 fallen warriors, the mortal shells you find and inhabit, are revealed via leveling up, and I found myself interested in their musings. It's not a simple to digest story, but it will prove engrossing to those who put effort in and adds motivation to explore each shell thoroughly, which ties back into Mortal Shell's main attraction: punishing, deliberate, and rewarding combat. Mortal Shell initially feels more like Dark Souls than any Souls-Borne I've played before. It's uncanny at times how familiar things feel as you hack, dodge, roll, and often flee for your life as you face aggressive scavengers and imposing bosses. But Cold Symmetry's take on the genre does make a few tweaks, many of which I grew fond of, some of which I didn't. For starters, there's no traditional shield. Instead, you have the ability to harden your shell into rock for 1 to 3 seconds. You can't move, but are impervious to any attack no matter the size, and if you harden mid-attack, you'll continue to unleash your attack afterwards. It opens up the door for some aggressive tactics and can save your ass when swarmed or out of stamina. The more I played, the more I appreciated the nuance it could bring to other players' combat experience. Each shell also represents a character class, and there are 4 shells in total. There's the tank who's heavy on health but low on stamina, and the classic well-rounded knight is of course there as well. My favorite shell was Teal, the acolyte, who was heavy on stamina. He's able to run without getting tired, which for me is a major boon. The best part of these shells is that they can be swapped between at the main safe zone. You're never locked into picking a class once you've found additional shells. This is another strength of Mortal Shell, as it incentivizes experimentation without major loss to progression. If desired, you could fully max out every class on a single playthrough. There are also 4 unique upgradable weapons to seek out that exhibit their own strengths and weaknesses, and subtle clues to their whereabouts sit in plain sight. There's a Parry and Riposte, which offers its own exciting upgrades, perks that can greatly shift the tides of battle if used well. Like the games it draws inspiration from, enemies drop a dangerous to hoard currency which can be spent on goods from a helpful merchant, and each slimy nook and cranny potentially holds a bag of much sought after glimpse or a lost key item, required findings for upgrading characters and weapons. You'll run into mini-bosses that you can choose to ignore if you like, but what can't be ignored of course are the often terrifying main bosses that await you. A thorn in my side is that you need to first use a newly found item before knowing its effects. On paper the idea is cool, you discover along with your character, but in practice I found it tedious and often wasteful. Fast travel between found safe zones is also locked behind character progression, requiring you to fully upgrade a shell before being offered the fast travel item, an item you're not given the description of until you use it. The fast travel unlock isn't too bad in hindsight, it's just something I wish was communicated in-game earlier. What was communicated early though is the talent of the artist and the animators. Mortal Shell looks and sounds pretty good, especially considering the small team. Trees twist and stretch in unnatural ways, disappearing into dense fog. Towering pillars of polished rock bend overhead as you venture towards inevitable death. And while I could have used a couple grander vistas, the ominous, tension-stirring ambience often makes up for it. Voice acting is solid across the board, and animations also impress, with only the occasional synchronized display from grunts breaking the immersion. While somewhat familiar, character designs in general are decent, and I found a couple of the bosses to be particularly memorable. Mortal Shell offers a compelling and unique Soulsborne experience in a condensed, less intimidating $30 package, making it a great place for newbies to jump into the genre while also offering veterans a quick fix with enough fresh, appealing ideas to slice into. And with a first playthrough taking a brisk 15 to 20 hours, New Game Plus, and the thought of experimenting with unique shells and weapons becomes even more tantalizing. You'll start the game scratching your head and end with sweaty palms yelling, "Yes!" While it may lack scope, Mortal Shell satisfyingly lays the foundation for something special. I'm giving Mortal Shell 8 out of 10.